Good morning, everybody. My name is Louise Golding from Clarity Crafts here in the UK. Welcome to Groovi Tuesday. Hope everybody's okay. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. The weather is a bit cloudy today. It's a bit miserable, but it's at least it's nice and cool, which is good for crafting, I suppose, and a bit of gardening as well. So I hope everybody's doing well. Hope you all had a lovely weekend. It seems the weeks just go so quickly. Before you know it, it's Groovi Tuesday again. It goes way too quickly. Oh, good morning. Everybody's coming into the room now. Lovely. So I'm just waiting to hear if the sound's okay, and then we can get started. So yeah, what's everybody been up to since I last had Groovi Tuesday with you? You've been gardening, crafting. Did you go out? Did you go anywhere? I'd like to know. Lovely. Good morning, everybody. Goodness me. Right. So it's the last week this week. And then for 2 weeks, we're going to have a little bit of a break, I think, with Groovi Tuesday, because Paul's got a lot of bits and pieces to get sorted, ready for lots of different things, TV shows, retreats, and all of that jazz. So yes, so we're going to have a little bit of a break. And then after I come back from Cornwall on my holidays, we're going to get started on that lovely Linda Williams project, the one with the floral numbers that we didn't get to in the demo for the show because there was so much gorgeous artwork. It seemed a shame to just spend 20 minutes with Linda's lovely demo. So we're just going to take it nice and easy when we get back from summer holidays. And we're just going to breeze through Linda Williams' lovely demo. And it'd be lovely for, I think, everybody to see what work goes into a demo as well, because Linda created all of these stages, just like Jane does as well. And we've had a lot of the design team create demos for us. So it's nice to see like what work goes into all the different stages for the demo. So yeah, we'll go through all of that on Groovi Tuesday when I get back. So sound is good. That's good because I've been rambling for 2 minutes. Everybody would have just seen my lips move, but nothing coming out. So lovely. Okay, so we've got lots of lovely friends in the room now. So I think we better get started because there's quite a lot to get through. So what I thought I'd do first is, there we go. If we get closer. There we go. So we started doing a little bit of embossing on the edges. So we focused on the two bits of tool work. So we created this bit. So we created the template and then used the template to create all of the holes around there. So it's a really good idea to get that little bit done with a template so that you know that that's going to be right. And then we focused on this. So I had a few people who wanted to kind of, we went through this. So I would really recommend, if you were unsure, just to watch it back last week to see how I did it. But I wanted to kind of show you the pattern by just creating one tool work. So these are 5. Is just, so say that's just one dot. So you've got your 5, haven't you? So each dot is one tool. So you kind of, you're going down. So you're looping the second one into the first one, like we did last week, and then this is your next one. So you loop this one into these 2 holes on that side, and that would be every other one. So if that makes it easier to know the pattern, then that would be gone like this. So you could do that all the way down. So you would do every single one, you would loop one into the other all the way down, like we did with this. And then the second row, which is this row here, is looped in. So that's every other one. And then, so say we've got the two, that's your 2 5 marks, and then you'd loop that into that one. So if that makes it easier as a pattern to kind of have a look at and see how this was created, then maybe that might be an easier way to understand how I did it. So it's that one is every one, then that one is every other one, and then that one loops into these two. So if that makes it easier. There we go. So what I thought we'd do is we'll do the embossing first for this side, and then we'll reperforate, and then we'll cut this out so you'll see how I've cut it out, and then we'll just do a little bit of embossing on this one, and then we'll get into that. So I didn't know until this morning, apparently it's International Tiger Day, which I thought, I love tigers. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. Wouldn't want to be in a room with one unless it was a baby. But yeah, they are absolutely gorgeous animals. Okay, so does it go in anymore? There you go. Ooh, nice and close. There we go. So you can see here what I mean when we were doing that little dots here. So you've got one which is looped into each other, and then this one, every other one, and then in between that I've put a large embossed dot, and then this one loops into the other ones, like I said here. So if that makes, it might be a good idea if you have been struggling with it, just to take a little picture, a screenshot like that, and then that makes it easier because it's nice and close there, so you can really see it up close. Okay, so let's go back onto the front, on the back rather. So we're on the back, so we're going to emboss on the back. So you obviously perforate on the front. So what I've done is, let me bring in this card here so you can see it next to each other here. So what I've done first is I've kind of done a little scallop. I thought that was a nice little detail. And then you can see where I've done the embossed dot, which is this bit. And then all I've done with these is just done like a little, it's me thinking about donuts again. Just a little donut here. But you can create a little circle and cover the hole completely, because then when we go onto the front and we reperforate, we can reperforate into the middle part here as well. So that's what I'm going to do first. So yeah, you can either, I'm doing it with the number 1 here, but if you feel easier doing it with the number 2, you can get your number 2 in there. But I'm using it with my number 1. The choice is yours. There we go. Oh, there we go. I forget, because we're so close, I forget that I can only show a tiny little section. There we go. So we're just using a little scallop around, and then when you can see on the front there, makes a nice, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say next. It's National Lipstick Day and National Lasagna Day, but I didn't know it was National Chicken Wing Day. Not as exciting as last week when it was National Ice Cream Day. That was nice. But I do like lasagna. Although I'd have to have a gluten-free lasagna. But I do love lasagna. There we go. So just, you would slowly work your way down. Oh, there we go. So what you can do is you can go lightly if you're a little bit nervous of tearing through the parchment. But if you keep it in the same place, you can go over, like I'm doing here, a few times, just to really get that nice sharp line. So you can go over a few times, and so you're not struggling. Yeah, so I've got a list of some very nice places to go to when I'm in Cornwall. So apparently there's a really nice place in Perranporth called the Watering Hole, and this year they've got a little, I think someone called it a sky bar. I think it's called a sky bar. So that sounds really good. So I have and apparently they do really lovely food too. So yeah, any place they do really nice food and I'm there. It's one of the pleasures in life, I think. Just good food. There we go. So I'm just working my way down. I'm doing this on the soft side of the mat. So I'm working on the black and I'm embossing into the soft side of the black mat. Yeah. Okay, so just, yeah, and just if you're a bit nervous, just go over it just a few times. But it does have a really nice effect on when you look on the front. I mean, I do like a nice scallop. It's one of my most used nested shapes. Oh, it's having a moment. There we go. Yeah, it's one of my most used nested shapes because you've got the squares and the circles, which if I'm ever struggling for any design ideas, a circle in a square is kind of like a really good go-to. Because what you can do with a circle in a square, well, you can do quite a lot with a circle in a square. But for example, I always have like a square on the outside and then a shape on the inside. So you either see like an octagon or a circle. That way I can do some really lovely corners where between the circle and the square, or the octagon and the square, and then do a really lovely image inside. So it's a really good design composition to refer to if you're ever lost your mojo. What's a mojo? Then simple compositions like that really do help because they look nice and they're easy to fall back onto if you're struggling for any kind of layout issues. I mean, the easy layouts are really lovely. I'm really glad that we have those because they're really handy. because you can put some lovely flower designs in there or grid designs. So there's I probably would, yeah. I do. When I was younger, I used to go to Spain a lot. It's near Alicante. It was called Torrevieja. And yeah, I used to love Spanish food. Greek food's nice too. I mean, the only thing I'm not so keen on is really spicy food. I don't mind a bit of spice, but really spicy food. Then obviously anything that's gluten-free is great. But apart from that, I don't mind trying anything food-wise. Although I'm not so keen on seafood. I like fish, but yeah, maybe not like shellfish. There we go. So that is the first part of the, let me come out a little bit so you can see. So I've done all the way along that line with the scallop. Okay, so now let's come back in a minute. There we go. So I'll go back over to my number 2 now, the Groovi tool. And so all I'm doing now is I'm just going over, you can go over the hole, it doesn't matter, of the 5 needle in the middle, because we're going to re-perforate over that anyway. So yeah, you can use the pink mat if you prefer. It just depends on personal preference really, whether you use the black mat a lot or the pink mat, so it's up to you. When I first started, I used the pink mat quite a bit, but now I quite like the black mat. But I have both. Be rude not to, wouldn't it, really? There we go. So I've done the first 3. So really, I'm just kind of going over in a circular motion, kind of a bit like how you would emboss a dot anyway, but just not as hard as I would emboss a dot. I'm just going over as many times as you know to make that nice white. Lynn says, have I decided which plates I'm going to be using for the colouring course? Okay, so we are launching the colouring course this Friday, 10 and 2. We have some new plates that I will be using as well for the colouring course. So they're going to be launched on Friday along with the colouring course. So very, very exciting. I've created the cards. So we're going to be using Dorso crayons, Perga colours, and the Pergaliners, the A's and the B's together. So those are going to be the 3 modules. So it's we've got it all. I've created the cards, so that's all done. So I know what I'm going to be learning. So we've got them. Yeah, so that's all going to be launching on Friday, which is very exciting. I've created a demo as well. So yeah, and there's some lovely design team cards that have come through. So yeah, don't miss that. If you wanted to go a little bit more into your colouring, then that's a really, really good one to go for. But yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. There we go. So just working along here. So I'm going. You can see, you can't really see the hole in the middle of the 5 needle tool. You can see it a tiny little bit, but I can reperforate into that. That's not a problem. So it's going down. So once you've done the embossing, you can kind of see where the pattern and where you're going to be cutting out. Then it makes it a little bit more obvious. So it is tricky when you first using the tool work, because all you can see is holes. But once you start embossing, it kind of makes it a little bit more obvious of where you're cutting and where you're not. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe how quickly this year's gone. I mean, I started in February. We're now almost in August. By the time we do the colouring course, it's September. Then we got the perforating and picot cutting course in November. So yes, yeah, definitely something to look forward to, Lynn. It's gonna be a fun course. I mean, the thing is with parchment is there is so much to learn within colouring. You know, there's a lot more to learn, you know, but I mean, I've got time. Got lots of plans for next year as well. So it should be coming out of shot there. There we go. Yeah, and the plates are really lovely as well. So there we go. So that is one side. If I come out, hello, there's your told. There you go. The camera having a moment. There we go. So I have created the embossing all the way along there. That's the one side. So now I'm going to bring in my picot foam. I'll turn this over onto the hard side, just in case. I've got my picot foam on top of my super foam. You can, to get the right depth, all you really would need would be the picot foam over the black mat, the hard side. If you're prone to going a bit too far. However, if you're using a 1 fine needle, it doesn't really matter. You can go all the way through with a fine needle. It's when you're using a bold, if you go down quite a lot with the bold and the holes are close together, you could end up with lots of tears. Yeah, the colouring, especially when you start to bring in the A's and the B's together, because there's water involved, it starts to get a bit tricky when you bring in water. But yeah, there's so much more to learn with colouring. Lots of techniques and lots of different mediums that you can use on them. So it's lots of fun. Okay, so I've got one fine needle, one needle fine. That's my tummy rumbling. It's because I was talking about food earlier. Let me go on to number 3. I think that might be because I think all you're going to see is my my hand in the way. Otherwise. Okay, so you just reperforate into let me show you on to number 2 a minute. There we go. So we're just reperforating. So you can now see the difference between this hole and this hole, obviously. We can just reperforate into it. So you would just repeat all the way down. Okay. Yeah, I scanned in all of the artwork for the colouring course and everything from the design team, and as usual, they knock it out of the park every time. But yeah, there's some really lovely design team samples, which is so lovely. I mean, we're so lucky now we have Clarity TV because we can really spend time looking at the gorgeous artwork, whereas you never really used to get the time on Create and Craft or wherever, Chanda, to properly look at the DT artwork. You can spend more time on demos as well, which is really nice. I've really been enjoying doing Groovi Tuesday. It's been, it's an hour of crafting with friends, isn't it, really? We're all spending time doing something that we all have a genuine passion for. Very happy that somebody out there once, invented crafting. I don't really know what I would do without crafting, especially parchment. I'm not sure really how my brain would cope. It's just the mindfulness of it all, really. I hope the microwave can't I hope the microphone can't pick up my rumbling belly. I don't know why I'm so hungry today. Mind you, I haven't had breakfast, so that might be why. Yeah, I would agree with you, Lynn. I think for me, embossing and perforating is, it's a technical art that you have to master. But with colouring, there's a lot. I would agree. It's a different part of the brain. You're using kind of, it's colouring. Once you get the technical side of it out of the way of learning what to do in what order and things like that, then, it's very creative and everything. I mean, I must admit, I love all parts of parchment, but I mean, the colouring side, there is a lot more to learn. I mean, once you have the wonderful tools, and once you've mastered the embossing and everything, You know, there's different ways of colouring. You know, you can colour and then emboss over it. You can emboss and then colour, or you've got the B's and the A's, and you can, you know, colour them. Or then you've got the B's, and you can use the Perga colours over the top. You know, there's so much to learn, and then you can go into inks and paints and everything else with parchment. So that it's a very, very wide range of, you know, things to learn with colouring and painting, and, you know, so on like that. So yes, it is with coloured pencil. If you want to create that lovely coloured pencil work, you can. It would be like yeah, embossing in the way that you would build up layers. Lots of layers, a bit like, there we go. Okay, so I've got my Pico foam here still, so I can use that to cut. So I'm just gonna, I'll cut a little section and then we can get started on the middle part, and then we can talk through that. Okay, so what I'm doing is, with the 5 needle, the holes are a little bit further away than you would have on a normal, you know, distance between a 2 needle. So it is slightly different. I mean, what you can do is all of the bits that are one way, you can do it like that. So I would cut this bit and this bit, and then work my way up. So instead of keep on turning your work, all you have to do is turn it a few times, and that way it works a little bit quicker for you. So then I would do all of them this way. Don't forget you've also got these bits at the back there. Okay, so you've got this bit. Sometimes I'll find it easier because you're not always turning over, turning and turning your work all the time. You really only have to turn your work 3 times then, because if you're doing it singularly, you kind of have to keep on turning it every time that you. If that makes sense. I'll just do this one actually, because I started that one. There we go. So if I just cut a little bit here, I'll just cut this bit here. And oh yeah, there's a bit there I've missed. There we go. So yeah, so that is how that part is cut out. So you would just follow it all the way along, and obviously all the way around your piece of art. But that's how it's embossed. And then that's how I would cut out. So you're cutting right in here, and then cutting all this section out. It looks quite nice when it's cut out. Gives a nice little different. I like showing different ways of how you can use all of the tools, you know. So it's, you know, over time you can build up your library of all your different tools that you've used in all of the different sections. So yeah, so that's how you would do the outside. I know we're obviously, you can either choose to cut these bits out, or if you didn't want to cut them out, you can always put some lovely grid work in here as well. So that's another design idea if you wanted to just to create some nice little grid work in the corners instead of cutting it out and putting another design here. So it's up to you whether you wanted to do that or not. But yeah, it's quite a nice border, I think. It's a nice, there's so many different ways that you can create lovely borders with all of the tools. I mean, the 5 needle tool creates some really pretty borders. But yeah, there's lots and lots of opportunities of all the different tools. And then once you feel a little bit more confident, you can mix and match the tools and create lots of layers and everything. They look really nice. Okay, I did have a cup of tea here. Here we go, that's a bit better. Okay, so now we can focus on the inside now. So I'm going to turn onto the soft side of the mat again, turn over my work. So with the middle, let me show you here. So you have 2 options with the middle. If you're feeling a bit more adventurous, I mean, this is one way. However, if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, what you can do is you can bring your, you can either pierce with a grid or your 2 needle. If you perforate in here, which I'll show you in a minute, you would create that and cut this bit out. Then you can create, it looks really lovely as well. I'll show you what I mean in a second. But first, let me just emboss. Which one was I going to do? Okay, do this one. Okay, so again, I'm using the number. I'm going to use the number 2, the Groovi tool. So the dots are smaller, and all I'm doing is just doing smaller dots. So I'm just doing the dots in like a little cross. So this bit is going to be still, we're going to cut around here. So you still want that there. But apart from that, you just want to do some tiny little dots. Okay, all the way along here. This actually creates some lovely borders. Around the outside of your work as well. It's a really lovely one to master if you've got the patience. There we go. So that's lots of little dots around there. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in my Pico foam. I'm I'm going to re-perforate. I've got the 1 needle fine again. I'm just going to re-perforate. And if you're not at your picot cutting stage, I think I said it last week as well, there's nothing stopping you from perforating and embossing, and then just using your, your picot squares just to cut around the lovely design. I mean, it looks really nice. Just perforated and embossed. Here we go. So I've just done 1 line. I've re-perforated 1 line. Oh, I've got to just do these ones here. Okay, so that's how I started. So one option would be, all you would need to do would be to cut around here, and then you would just leave it. However, if you wanted to cut within here, you would then get your 2 needle. And I've got a 2 needle bold here, but you might be better off with a 2 needle fine, to be fair. But so all you're doing is just perforating in between the gap. So the reason I did the first way was because it's easier to master that before you do this one, because what happens is, once you've done that, it gets a tiny bit more confusing about where you cut, because they all look along, but it looks really nice when it's done. Okay, so I'll just do this one because I just want to show you how I've done it. So you can, like we did before, if you can maybe try not to twist so much when you're working with these tiny little sections on the outside. If you can try and picot cut without twisting so much, it kind of helps, because sometimes what can happen is you can twist quite a bit and it kind of makes the parchment a little bit flimsy, and then it can pop off, the lovely little bit that you've spent so long embossing and perforating. Okay, so we've got this little bit here. You've got the little edge, and then you come back over here. Okay, and then you've got that lovely little edge there. Let me just see if I can cut away from it a little bit so you can see what it looks like. And I haven't embossed this little bit, but I just want to show you. I'll kind of cut away from it a little bit. Okay, then what I'll do is I'll just Here we go. So you can see cut away, so you can kind of say, obviously don't do that. But I just wanted to show you the edge that you get from it, which looks really nice. So then what you would do if you felt like you wanted to do the other part, I'm just going to show you the difference. Okay, so you can kind of see it looks really, really pretty. Just looks nice like this, but it can also look really lovely like that as well. And that looks really lovely around a border of a card. The way that we've done this, we've looped into each tool, but if you separate them a little bit, so they kind of have a little bit more of a gap, more like instead of like a group of 6, it's like 2 crosses, isn't it? Just to add one more, so it looks a little bit longer, like the cross tool in the Linda's handbook, the tool book. Linda's was a little bit further away from each other. But yeah, they both look really, really nice. Even if you just have them just embossed, it looks really lovely. So there's such a difference. And then obviously when you can do whatever you wanted in here, you would cut this section out, and then we've put I just put a little flower in there. However, you can not cut it out and put some lovely grid work in there, either using a diagonal or your straight. So you would carry on around that and create that lovely effect. Yeah, so what I mean with that is if you weren't at this stage, you know, you're just starting to learn and you've got a perforating tool and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what happens with these? If you're new to tool work, then just perforate, emboss and reperforate, and then all you can do is just, you know, cut along here and you've got a lovely little design pattern. But I mean, that is, yes, I agree with Jane. With anything, embossing, perforating, colouring, with any kind of crafting, you know, the more you practice, the better you get. And I know it's a very cliche thing to say, but I have a friend that was at college with me years ago, and she brought in all of her artwork from like the age of like 6 or 7, but from the age of 13, 14, she had some really, you know, things, really lovely sketching, but you could really see over 3 or 4 years of her continuously doing it, how well she, you know, the shading got better, it got more realistic, and that was sketching like people and animals and stuff. And she was really, really, really clever with sketching and everything. It was amazing. But that's what I mean is, you know, nobody starts straight away and creates brilliant, you know, artwork. So I think it's really good to bear in mind that, you know, we all started somewhere. We all started practicing, and it was never really good to begin with, but you can, you know, you just get better with practice and patience. That's what we kind of kept on saying in the embossing course: practice and patience, practice and patience. But it's true. You do over time. You do get better. You learn from your mistakes. You know, we make plenty of mistakes in any kind of, you know, in crafting and outside of crafting. You know, but you always learn from them. I've made plenty of mistakes with my crafting, but it's because I like to kind of like experiment and see if something works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, that's the fun in it, isn't it? Just, you know, practicing. And yeah, I must admit, I do love using my tools, but you really do need, if you don't have one, you really need a magnifying glass, because when you're working with tools over time, if I'm working with a lot of tools, my eyes start to kind of like see lots of little dots, and they all go blurry. So you really do need a magnifying glass. I really do recommend one, preferably with a light on it. That's helpful, and that helps with anything, with colouring and perforating and embossing. It's easier to see 10 times magnifying than it is without. But yes, definitely. So yeah, so apart from, I mean, let's walk through this card together, what we've done. So we started off doing our line art, then we did our embossing. So we created some little embossing in the flowers. I've used a little bit of a gel pen on the middles of the flowers, just to give it a little bit of a contrast. Used our lovely rub-ons in the middle. If you've got them, they're really handy, make life easy. It's your option whether you want to perforate using the diagonal grid inside this little bit. I think it gives it a little bit of interest, but again, up to you. I mean, this originally is 2 bits of parchment, as you can see there. I'll pull that away, see? 2 bits of parchment, but with this one I created it into one because I thought that might be easier. So yeah, so I would you could either cut these sections out or put grid work in them. Follow this border all the way around. Depends on the level you're at. If you wanted to, if you feel like you could, if you feel like you're confident to do the lovely picot cutting out of the design, it gives it's a really nice little border. I mean, there's so many options in Linda's handbook of ones you could do. I mean, I just kind of experimented, but I think it gives a nice little effect. And then you've got that lovely cross tool that I would recommend having a look in Linda's handbook with the cross tool and seeing all of the lovely bits and you can do with them, because you can use them this way, but you can also use them diagonally as well for borders, which really, really looks really nice as well. So definitely have a look in those books. I mean, they are really, really handy. And the good thing is, if you copy Linda's sampler page that she does, then you can use that as a template, and it makes life so much easier. If you, for example, Linda just does, you know, a couple of centimeters of a tool, and then she'll go into another tool. But if you just create that sampler perfectly the first time, then you have all of these templates on that one sheet that you can use again. So I would recommend always doing the sampler in Linda's handbook for all of the tools, and then all you've got to do then is just get your template over the top and then just keep on going over and over. And because you know it's the first time, you know, perfectly the first time, then you can just keep on going with that. So yeah, so that's where we are at. So yes, on so there's no TV tomorrow, but obviously you've got Thursday, and then on Friday we have the colouring course launch. So that's at 10 and 2. Let me go on to Thursday. So yes, so that's 10 and 2. So it's definitely worth having a look, because yeah, the course is going to be launched, as is 4 new nice plates, which are really, really nice as well. So and I've got a nice demo to show everybody. So yeah, perfect. If you can make it, it would be really lovely to see you, and just craft along with me on the demo. So we'll probably do the demo at 2 p.m. so we can really go over the course and the bits and pieces that you might need for the course, and also have a look at the lovely design team work. So we can really look properly at all of that in the first hour, and then in the afternoon I'll probably do the demo, just so that we've seen everything. Yes, and that's the good thing about the book as well, which Jane has said. Once you have those templates and everything, you have all of those templates, but then not only do you get all of those sampler sheets and the templates and everything, then you've got all of these design ideas for projects as well. So perfect for, if you're struggling again with composition, you've got, I think there's about 10 projects in there, for example, of just using all of these different tools in the artwork. So say you don't have those Groovi plates, you could substitute them with something else, but the design composition's there, as is all of the lovely tool work as well. So definitely worth having if you don't have them. So I've got them. They are very handy. So yeah, so thank you very much. That was really nice to go over that project for the last few weeks and everything. So, and those 2 borders are really lovely. So if you can, have a go with them as well. And then once you've kind of done one border, then you can experiment and you could maybe try different ways of embossing that border as well. So it'd be really lovely to see on Groovi Worldwide what you can create with those borders as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jane, for helping me today in the room, and being in the room and keeping everybody entertained. So I'll be back with Paul on Friday at 10 and 2, launching the colouring course, which is very exciting. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and have a lovely week. And yeah, I'll see you Friday, and then I'm off for 2 weeks. I'm so excited for Cornwall. I haven't been on holiday in a very long time, so it'll be nice. So yeah, so have a lovely day, everybody, and I will see you on Friday. Take care, everyone. Bye.